Bob Iger, formerly Walt Disney's CEO, is returning to run the company. Bob Chapek, who replaced Iger as CEO in 2020, is stepping down immediately. Chairman of the board for Disney, Susan Arnold, said in a statement, "We thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including navigating the company through the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic. The board has concluded that as Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of industry transformation, Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period."
CNN writes, the news comes after a new report was released that shows Disney's streaming business lost $1.5 billion in the fourth quarter, which sent Disney stock down after a year of, quote, sluggish to bad performance. When explaining his decision to leave back in 2020, Iger said, quote, "I started listening less. I became a little bit more dismissive of other people's opinions than I should have been. And that was an early sign it was time."
But he's back. The Disney ship has needs righting, I guess. I think the biggest problem is, one of their problems at least is the content has not been as good lately. Post Endgame, the kind of Marvel universe stuff is a little bit less exciting than it's been. The Star Wars stuff has been not as good.
I heard the newest
Andor, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, people raving about Andor, but I think they had gone kind of off track in that way. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about Disney's kind of complicity with China stuff. You know, Disney has been sucking up to Xi Jinping for like an eternity. And I don't think Iger and Chapek have much difference between them on that in that way.
Are you surprised about the backward movement instead of finding someone new, instead of going back to a previous CEO?
Well, I assume, they go back to him while they find, right, he's an older
interim
man. Well, I guess he could be there a long time. Who knows? Old people cling to their positions in politics, as we've discussed. But I assume they're kind of looking for an actual successor, and it just turned out he was not the guy. A lot of conservative people are wondering, or claiming credit rather, given the kind of high-profile fights that Disney had with Ron DeSantis in Florida over various things, saying that the way Chapek handled that invited blowback to Disney, conservatives punished Disney, he was too woke, etc. Don't know if there's truth to that. There's probably some truth to that, maybe. How many people actually, canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions because they don't like what Disney had to say about Florida's Don't Say Gay law, that kind of thing? Maybe some people. Go woke, go broke.
Yeah, it's an interesting question that a lot of folks are going to have to face, and I think there are some similarities between what we were talking about in a different segment with Elon Musk and this. How much of these kind of corporate decisions are being driven by woke ideology and how much are being driven by advertising and other kind of business decisions? As long as those things are aligned, a lot of decisions can look like they're being made because of wokeness, but if wokeness isn't getting you the dollars anymore, this is what a lot of activists have said for a long time. Yeah, it looks like there's banks and all of these kind of corporate institutions at your Pride Day parade, but how much allyship is there really the second that the public opinion turns and it no longer makes them money to look like they're sympathetic to your cause.
Some of these moral stands look rather foolish or rather hollow when you're going to be very mad about whatever the laws is in Florida that you're mad about, which is fine. I have expressed my issues with that law, but you're also going to avoid putting any plot lines in your content that are critical of China in order to appease their authoritarian government.
Sure.
It seems very foolish.
Also, these corporations are not your friends. Many of them have gone to some of these states that have weaker labor protections explicitly because they don't want to be supportive of their own employees, many of whom are also LGBTQIA and the like. There was a story about a lot of the labor issues that people who work at Disney World were experiencing, terrible conditions, hot inside the costumes, no breaks, low pay, poor treatment, etc. And it is, not cynical to point out how much some of the grandstanding about some of these higher order legal issues is to cover up from how they treat their own employees.
When was the last time a major studio, a big film or a big TV show had a storyline that was even slightly critical of China? They used to. It just doesn't happen. You don't do it anymore. Everyone's too afraid to do it. What?
All the bad guys are
Russian. They can do it, right. That's true. They're Russian or they can be Islamic terrorists. 24, I was a huge fan of the show 24 back in the day. They had a significant anti-China running plot line, but that was back in in the aughts. There, I guess, right. The Dark Knight, the second Batman film, has a slight kind of criticism of China, but this stuff doesn't happen anymore. They're all Russian or Eastern Europeans or Islamic, or et cetera. You can't criticize China. You can criticize the U.S. You can criticize every other government.
Well,
can't
again,
criticize China.
How much of that is? I mean, like these things are related, right? Is it just the Chinese market is so big?
Yeah, and the government. Well,
I mean, what percentage
but the
of it
Chinese
is?
government will punish you.
Right. I mean, but again, I'm not.
They will turn off your distribution.
I'm not excusing it, but there's a relationship. Even if the
they will
government
punish you for
didn't
depicting
act,
homosexuality too, and all these. We want to be pioneering for including same-sex relationships or something in this programming. Like they'll brag. These studios will brag about doing that domestically for U.S. audiences, for European audiences, and then they will just cut that for the release for China because Chinese government won't allow you to do that either.
It wasn't that
it's
LeBron
absurd.
James, right, made some comments about China during, I think, the Hong Kong protest, and was forced to walk that back because of the NBA.
Various NBA figures have had to. Some people in online gaming, a community I'm a bit more familiar with in the sports community, if our viewers are catching on to that. Activision Blizzard, it's a gaming company. There was a tournament for a popular online game, and a player said something pro Hong Kong or pro Taiwan? I can't remember. It was pro Hong Kong, and they in that tournament he got punished, like he had his winnings confiscated. It shows the shallowness of these
saying, like, about our earlier segment about Qatar. This is what I'm saying.
Well, no, I mean, this is what I'm saying. That these stands look these domestic. Everybody's a brave, standing up for the right thing, moral thing,
but
domestically, there are
countries
tyrannies
you're allowed to complain about, and there's countries you're not allowed to complain about. So, to the extent that the complaints are coming through, I think that it's worth questioning why we're being allowed. Not that the underlying complaint isn't completely fair, but why is it being permitted in this instance? That's all.
All right, we'll be back with more Rising right after this. Get better Marvel plot. I'm a big Marvel fan. That's what I'm saying. I'm asking. Get the MCU back under control. That's my request for Disney's new CEO. More Rising after this.